Initially they wanted Joan Crawford to be the lead in this movie, but it never panned out. But it eventually became one of Hammer's most unique movies of the early 1970s. So today we're going to be talking about the very forgotten but still solid Crescendo. Now, the psychological thriller horror movie directed by Alan Gibson and starring Stephanie Powers, James Olsen, Margaret Scott, Jane Lopatea, and Joss Ackland was made by Hammer Films in 1970. Now, only released in the States as part of a double bill with a very, very important Dracula movie, Taste of the Blood of Dracula. 95 minutes, again, completed for £300,000. So getting Stephanie Powers in was a little bit more expensive. Screenplay was by Jimmy Sangster and Alfred Shaughnessy, directed by Alan Gibson, of course. It was based on a screenplay by Shaughnessy and produced by Michael Carreras. Cinematography, Paul Beeson. Edited by Chris Barnes. Music by Malcolm Williamson. Distributed by WB. Again, June 7th, 1970 in the UK, but 2 years later, half years later in the States at 95 minutes. Now, in this one, drawn to the spectacular southern France to research the late composer Henry Ryman, music student Stephanie Roberts, played by Powers, encounters his son, drug-addicted George, played by James Olsen, and his eccentric family. Investigating the haunting strains of an unfinished Ryman concerto leads Susan to discover an empty piano and a brutally savage mannequin. George tells her she's a lookalike of his lost love, but Susan may not be the only one on the villa with an eerie doppelganger. Now, Shaughnessy wrote the script in the mid-1960s. In 1966, Michael Reeves approached Hammer with the script. James Carreras tried for 2 years to make it with Joan Crawford, but could not get financing. In 1969, the project was reactivated, with Jimmy Sangster hired to rewrite the script and Alan Gibson to direct. Now, Crescendo premiered in London on the 7th of May 1970 at the New Victoria Theatre. It received a general release on the 7th of June 1970 by Warner Pathé in support of the Taste of Blood of Dracula. It was distributed in the United States by Warner Brothers on 29th November 1972. Although Stephanie Powers had her followers at the time, the movie didn't do very well in the box office. According to published reports, the results were disappointing. The film was released by DVD by the Warner Archive Collection in March 2009. In a current day review, the Monthly Film Bulletin found that the film to be another Hammer horror and within its own terms quite a spirited offering, noting that Gibson has injected a gratuitous amount of sex into the story, but otherwise presents the usual mixture with sure style and a good eye for color. The review went on to state that the dialogue does creak somewhat, but the next Hammer surprise is never far away. Even the butler turns out to have been a frequent inmate of asylums, though he seems about as normal as anyone else in the film. What really stood out for me with this movie, and I've never seen it, but I've seen many of its posters, they didn't know what to do with the movie because was it a typical Hammer horror movie? Was it a film noir? Was it a psychological thriller like some of the Bette Davis and Joan Collins movies of the 60s and 70s? Now, if you wanted to make this a hag horror movie, they kind of decelerated or what they call pushed down the age a little bit. Joan Crawford at the time obviously was well in retirement age and would have done a good job. She eventually did, she was back to the horror genre with Eyes on Night Gallery around the same time, like a couple of years later. Don't know why Joan Crawford turned this down because she always did well with horror movies of that genre and seemed to be well known. It reboosted her and Bette Davis's career. But for a lot of Hammer completists, it really stands out because not too often you get a top flight American actress guiding a British horror movie. And I think that's what you saw in the budget. I think they paid her a lot of money because usually a Hammer budget £100,000 to £200,000. This was $300,000, so it was more of a. And I think Hammer took a bigger loss on this because you rarely see it on TV or even promoted in any way, shape, or form. So that's the latest Hammer Movie Archive podcast. If you like what we're doing with our reviews on the 1970s Hammer, let us know with a like, comment, subscribe, or share. And John Walco has made a whole bunch of requests as well, so watch for his requests in the next few weeks, mostly the Mummy series for Hammer. It's going to be quite interesting. Thanks for listening. Bye.